life is like. And I have committed both my career as well as my public service to ensuring that all students, every single student has the same opportunities as other students. That is what's really important to me.
Childhood was being part of a migrant fight worker family. We traveled up and down the San Joaquin Valley, Oregon, Idaho, Washington. The days were long. The winters were cold. The summers were hot. I remember that I had read in the paper or somewhere that Truman made $125,000 a year as President of the United States. Well, we made 75 cents an hour back in those days. I would have to work 80 plus years, save every penny to make what Truman made in 1 year. So I said, I got to find a better way of making a life because working at 75 cents an hour ain't going to cut it. I really never had anybody that I grew up with that I can say as a childhood friend. And of course, then when I went on to college, it was a different story. One person asked me one day, would you like to come by and look at our fraternity? And I had nothing else to do, so I went and became Sigma Chi. That opened a whole new world for me. And the camaraderie and friendship has lasted now for 60 plus years. I went and pursued my MBA in management. I became certainly a real estate broker, a business consultant, author. My education has been an important part of my success that I've had financially in this world. There were some darn good professors at Fresno State that really taught me how to plan, how to think, research, how to seek out. And I owe to them a lot of my success because of what they taught me and how I built on what they taught me to make a better life for me and my family. Growing up, if somebody didn't have gas for their vehicle, then we'd give them gas. Or if somebody didn't have food, we'd share with them. So sharing became part of the culture that I grew up in. I got involved with an organization called Community Service Organization. It was an organization that Cesar Chavez had started back in the 50s. They had elections and I got elected president of the local chapter. Then a few months later, I moved on and became executive director of CSO. And CSO was challenged with organizing, motivating, and implementing a game plan that people could better themselves. We set up some homes in Selma and Mendota and along Highway 99. We set up a credit union and a food bank that we had in Calma, Biola. Biola has a gas line now. Hey, I want to help others. I live to help others. And so it was a perfect setting for me as an executive director. I think giving back should be expected of all of us. I had an idea to raise money for the undergraduates at Fresno State Sigma Chi chapter. I already raised $100,000 by selling 400 bricks that are in the patio of the Sigma Chi house. But we needed more because so many students that we met sometimes have 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So I set up an endowment. There's a saying that says, you will always be remembered until forgotten. I want to be remembered. I don't want to be forgotten. And certainly an endowment will live on forever. Even though I'm dust and I've gone into another world, some people benefit. And they might never know who I am, but they'll know that a guy by the name of John Flores was a Sigma Chi at Epsilon Eta chapter back a long time ago. And thanks to him, I don't have to work that extra job. What I'm most proud of is in my professional life is the fact that I helped many, many people have a better life for themselves and their families. That because of me, Fresno is a better place. And that other places that I've been are a better place because of my being there and doing something.
I was raised in Fresno by a single mom. I ended up choosing to go to Fresno State, and, you know, honestly, I can say this, it was the best decision for me that I ever made. I was surrounded by people that were like me. So Fresno State, in many respects, was kind of like a warm bath. It wasn't like when I went to law school, which was more like a cold shower. I always say that if you want to find the biggest collection of dysfunctional people in any community, go to a law school. I remember after everybody talked about where they went to school, they asked me where I went to school, and I said I went to Fresno State. And I remember one of them said, I think he went to Harvard or something. He said, they have a school there. Then after we got our midterm grades, that's when I said, yeah, I went to Fresno State. How'd you do? Fresno State really set me on the course that stood me in good stead. I mean, the skills that I used as a lawyer, the skills I used as a judge, the skills that I use now as a writer, all of these things are generated by what I did when I was 19 years old, 20 years old. Of course, I didn't think about it that way then. I was a felony trial lawyer fairly well in advance of the normal track. I ended up running for office and became a municipal court judge. And in 1985, Governor Duke Majan appointed me to the Superior Court. And from there, I went to the 5th District Court of Appeal. I believe that government has a primary responsibility of creating a safe place for its constituents. In 1990-91, crime was just rampant. Here in the community of Fresno, a young woman was murdered. She was the daughter of a nurse and a wedding photographer here, Mike Reynolds. My mother was friends with the Reynoldses and asked me to become involved. I really was not enthused about becoming involved, but my mother was insistent, and so I agreed to speak to them. And Mike asked me, if you could do one thing, what is it that you would do to reduce crime in California? So I wrote up the structure of what at that time became known as the Three Strikes Law. It was controversial, no question about it. You know, I look at it in terms of people who are alive today that have no concept that they're alive because of three strikes. I mean, at the time, 10 years later, I calculated it was like 10,000 people. I looked at that as a very positive, salutary thing, and I still do. When I became the administrative presiding justice, I realized that the Court of Appeal needed to create its own building. I came up with a design that used glass walls to the courtroom. I want you to be able to look through the glass windows and see the center seat of the highest court in Central California. And over the transom, I wanted to say equal justice under law. As a judge, you are entrusted with a degree of discretion and responsibility that, frankly, very few human beings have. You have the power to take away a person's children, a person's home, a person's freedom, a person's life. I regard that as a great public trust. I was a judge for 30 years. I had the privilege of serving at every level of the judiciary, including the Supreme Court. It was the greatest honor that you could possibly have.
The Arthur Sastrom Service Award is an opportunity for the Alumni Association on behalf of the university to acknowledge, recognize, reward long-term service, volunteerism, advocacy, contributions that an individual or a duo maybe have made to our university overall over a longer period of time. I'm so thrilled that John is the recipient of the 2023 Arthur Sastrom Award. He ticks every box on the criteria list, and I can't imagine anyone more deserving than him.
I was born in a small town on the west side, Gustine. There were 7 in my family, and we learned, the notion of working hard very young. I was very interested in business. I was also interested in computers at the time. And then when I got here to Fresno State is when I just kind of jumped in with both feet in terms of the college experience, and joined a business fraternity, and gave me an opportunity to meet with businesses in the community, and a program that they called Half Day in the Job, where they had various community businesses that would allow students from the fraternity to come on site and learn about their business. And I had the great fortune of linking up with the local financial institution, Guarantee Savings, and that was the door that opened for me in terms of a career. While I was there at Guarantee is really where I first got involved with Fresno State. They encouraged volunteerism and specifically giving back to community. And my mentor encouraged me to help him with a membership drive that Fresno State Alumni Association was having. And so one of the very first things I did was buy a life membership. It was the opportunity that Fresno State afforded me to be connected to the community and really good people in the community, real strong leaders that understood not only the business aspects of what they were doing, but also the responsibility to give back to the community and to the university.
I met John Gomes 23 years ago when I joined the Alumni Association Board. John had started his volunteer career at Fresno State with his school, Craig School of Business, and had been a long time advocate for them, fundraiser, was on their advisory committees and such, and then he had come over to the Alumni Board. John has been a person on the Alumni Board that when there was a need to have an alumni representative on some type of university committee, the First Capital Campaign, the Renaissance Task Force, the Graduation 2025 initiative for the CSU. So he's somebody that his colleagues in service have a lot of confidence in. There's a lot of trust in having John represent us. And I think he has done a lot of work to try to bring others into the alumni fold and get others to serve. And so it's not just about him and what he can do on his own, but he's a team builder, and people want to be on his team.
As I think about all the things that we've done over the years, it's the scholarship program that I think really stands out as the thing that I'm most proud of, because we in fact are making a difference in students' lives. And I would have loved to have had the opportunity to have that kind of a scholarship when I was in college, but knowing that we can do it now just is very rewarding. Today, our scholarship endowment is about $6.5 million. We give away about $250,000 a year and growing. And when you start to think about those dollars and who they go to and what it means to those students to be able to be helped with their educational expenses and what that contribution means to this community as a result of educated students able to make a contribution to the community, it's just mind-boggling. And so I think that's probably the single best thing that I've done as a member of the Fresno State Alumni Association.
John is someone who doesn't look for recognition. He looks at the end goal of what do we need to achieve, what can he contribute to making sure you as a group achieve that, and puts his head down and does the work. He's the person you want on your side if you're going to go into battle over something and you're both in agreement on what the results should be. But he's also somebody who will defend fiercely the things he believes. And I think that's what makes him someone we all love and admire as his colleagues in the volunteer world.
If I can do one thing today that will make this a better place than it was when I got here, that's good. That's good for me. That's good for everybody. It's that kind of a mindset that I've always followed in my career, any board that I have served on, anything that I do, so that when we get to the end of the day, we can all go home and smile, right?
One exemplary individual's accomplishments have earned them the highest top dog honor, the Distinguished Alumni Award. Dr. Danielle Campaign grew up in Sanger and knew she wanted to be a physician from a young age. An involved student, she graduated from Fresno State in 2000 with a bachelor's degree in biology before pursuing medical school. Dr. Campaign has made a name for herself at Community Regional Medical Center, the only Level 1 trauma center between Los Angeles and Sacramento. In addition to her duties as Interim Chief of Emergency Medicine at UCSF Fresno, Dr. Campaign serves as Medical Director of American Ambulance in Fresno. She volunteers for numerous local organizations, supports Fresno State students, and is passionate about delivering the highest quality care to those around her. I'm honored to introduce the 2023 Distinguished Alumni Award recipient, Dr. Danielle Campaign.
Growing up on a farm, a bunch of us kids, it was kind of a neat environment to grow up. But it also is one of the reasons why I wanted to become a physician. My grandfather, he was a farmer and he got involved in an accident and was taken to Reedley Hospital and there was no doctor on duty. As a kid, hearing that story, knowing I didn't get a chance to meet my grandfather is very powerful. Because if the doctor had been there, maybe he'd still be here today.
Danielle has always loved science. She has always loved animals. When we were little, we'd get dropped off from the bus, and she would walk to the sheep farm next door. That was her after-school job.
And then I was such a good helper, they let me lance boils and give shots, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so I kind of knew I wanted to go into science from such a young age. When it came to applying for colleges, I knew I wanted to go to medical school. And Fresno State had an honors college, and that was a wonderful experience. So getting that award really, I think, was a huge pivot point in my life and got me to go to Fresno State.
Danielle is a perfectionist. She does not know how to fail. Her entire life, she does not know how to fail.
So I'm a straight A student through high school. I'm a super nerd. I love science. My first semester at Fresno State, I got a C. My first non-A of my whole life.
And it was the end of the world. How am I going to go to medical school? How am I going to do this?
I remember meeting with the pre-med advisor, and they're like, well, do you want to change your major? Do you want to do something else? No, there's nothing else I want to do. This is what I want to do.
And one thing about Danielle is she will find a way. And so she did everything she could to make up for that grade.
I went on and went to medical school at University of Southern California in Los Angeles. I'm sitting there getting interviewed, right? And you have people from Princeton, Yale, Harvard, right? Everybody's sitting there going, how do you know that? It's well, I know that from my anatomy class with Dr. Grubbs at Fresno State. I know that from my immunology class at Fresno State. And so I think the ability to be taught by PhD professors in small classes, I don't think you realize the value of that you have this professor who's an expert in that teaching you. And so I think it really set me up into a wonderful career in medicine. I did not love it in Los Angeles. I loved the schooling, but Fresno is where I want to come home to. So I applied for a residency here at UCSF Fresno. And the EM program here is one of the oldest ones in the country. And so it's very well established. And so it was a big honor to get into this residency. Then I stayed on as faculty here at UCSF Fresno.
She had opportunities. She could have gone elsewhere. She wanted Fresno. Emergency medicine was her number one choice, her number one goal. We all dream of falling into that profession that it's not a job to us because we love it so much. She has accomplished that dream. It is her love. It does not work for her. And so I think it's all fallen into place.
Day to day, my role changes kind of based on the hats that I'm wearing. So one of the biggest hats is, I'm a professor of emergency medicine. The other hat I wear is I'm interim chief of the emergency department here at UCSF Fresno and Community Regional Medical Center, supervising and overseeing and financial budgets for 50 faculty physicians and a residency program and kind of keeping that healthy and moving. And the other hat I wear is I'm medical director for American Ambulance.
We have a running joke in our family that if there are 15 free minutes of her time, she's going to fill it with something. And while she is climbing that success ladder, she's got one hand going up on the ladder, but her other hand, she's pulling people up with her. She's always trying to help those who are in her footsteps, trying to follow that path to medicine.
The Valley needs more people involved in healthcare in all areas of medicine. And so I think exposing our youth to those programs. I knew I wanted to be a doctor when I was in second grade, so getting those second and third graders to know hey, I can do that. I want to be there. Even if it's working in IT and healthcare or it's working at the bedside, there is a place for them. So part of my role now as interim chief of the emergency medicine department is fostering pipeline programs. We have an academic research associates program where at Fresno State you enroll patients in research and you're in the emergency department with us. And I feel like those kind of programs and gaining more of those is really important to me because I want to make sure that people who live in Fresno and go to Fresno State have the ability to get involved in healthcare. And it actually fulfills me. It makes me feel good to be able to give back since, I was a young buck learning at 1.2 and somebody took the time to mentor me and to teach me. I feel like we need to be there for each other to help get through these milestones in life. So it kind of fulfills both of my passions, right? You get to be a doctor taking care of patients and giving back to the community that raised you, and then also teaching the next generation of physicians and making an impact that way.
Danielle's the total package. I'm lucky to call her my sister, my best friend. To have someone like her always in my corner, I feel very fortunate to have her in my life. And I am so thankful that she has earned this award so that others can see how deserving and amazing she really is.
When I got that phone call, I was very shocked. I kind of feel not worthy because I feel like there's more to do and more to give. And it's actually a huge honor that my sister nominated me. Having your own family member think that highly of you is really neat. It means a lot to me.
Did I nominate her because she's a great doctor? No, that's not why. I nominated her because of her impact on this community and not only what she does for the hospital, but what she does for everybody else. She has a true calling to make this community better, and that's what she does day in and day out.
As a student at Fresno State, I'm inspired